Relationship compatibility, we're going to talk about the elements today. We're going to talk about the fire signs. That's Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius. We're going to talk about the air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Those signs, when they mix them up, they go well together. Air and fire, very compatible. Fire about the idea, air about the ability to communicate them. So, fire gives air ideas, stimulates them, makes them excited about explaining them. Air is able to communicate fire's idea, and it broadens it out even more. You want to know a really awesome couple that's out there, fire and air? Brad and Angie. He's a Sag, she's a Gemini. That's fire and air. Go find that combination, fire and air.